going. I'm hyped up about this one. I had my boy Cass Jackson. He's the big father advocate from Illinois. He lives out in
and these are my books where I actually talk about the issues that we're going to bring up. You know what I mean? So they're right here, and I'll talk about them. You know what I mean?
I want you to talk about that too, brother.
Okay.
We ain't gonna be no longer. Maybe we'll say I would have 2 hours, brother. After that,
now I promised my little lady I would take her to dinner tonight at 6:30. So can we wrap up at least at 6, maybe 6:10, something like that?
That's cool.
Cool.
That's cool. I might still stay out because I gotta do something for the missus. I understand.
All right. I'm glad you know. I know how to choose better now. That's another thing. We can talk about that too, man.
Oh man, yeah, I want to talk about all that, brother. Same here, and it's gonna be a diverse crowd. That's the thing. On my Facebook, I got a diverse crowd. YouTube is predominantly black men.
Yeah.
But everybody need to know, relate to this when it comes to child support and baby mama terrorists.
Ain't that the truth?
Yes, only one. Bracy, what's going on, bro? Julius Mays in the house. What's good? What's good? Give it a few moments. He said this about to be fire, so they know about you, man.
Yeah, man. You know, and the thing is, after I talk for a little while, man, I get loose and I just start talking crazy, and that's when they really like it. Like, okay, he done loosen up.
I seen it, and I had no problem with that. That's why I say, me, I'm not politically correct, and I don't have nothing to lose. And like I said, that's what put me in my own lane. So, you know, I just want to bring the awareness, and this is the only way I can bring it out.
All right, cool.
You know, just give it a few more. Let me see on YouTube.
Take your time, bro. Baby, you want to come say hi to Mr. Palmer? She ain't coming over here. Come on over here and say hi, baby. Come on over here so he'll know I ain't lying to you. I got to take her out. Look, she all dressed up. Come on.
I see you. Y'all suited up. I ain't mad at you, man.
Look at her. She all this is my lady, soon to be fiance.
Okay.
She all dressed up, man.
Hey, how you doing?
Yeah, man. And so I got to do what I got to do. I'm playing, bro. I got to.
My man, I heard that.
I play. How you feel? You feel me?
I feel you 100%, brother. I feel you.
Yeah, man.
Beans, Adam. I'm paying, and my kids. I'm paying child support. My kids will live with me. You see the comments on the side, right?
Yeah, I do. Wow, he needs to get his custody agreement.
Yeah, we're gonna talk about. That's what I'm saying. We're gonna talk about all that, and that's what I'm saying. Stephen in Liverpool, UK. My ex is a nasty piece of work. Of course she is. She's a baby mama terrorist. What's going on, man? From Wisconsin, man. Okay, well, my man Brandon Johnson, baby mama terrorist on blast. My man. Turn it up. Tuning in from Fargo. Indeed, dudes. My man. That's what I'm talking about. I had to leave my job because take it out. Yeah, I bet you did, brother. I bet you did. You don't have no echoes, do you, Dennis?
Everything's fine over here.
Okay, I got the speaker. It sounds like I was make sure you're in here. Okay, what's going on, Scott? Hey, my man Scott from Tennessee. Now this brother right here, man, he got equal parent time, and this brother pays $1,000 a month. You see this right here? See that? That's him. Yeah. Good brother. You know, baby mama tell him manipulate daughter and all that stuff. It's crazy. It's very crazy. Well, look, y'all, we're gonna get this thing started. I got with y'all today. A lot of y'all know about him, and those who don't, his name is Dennis Sperling Esquire. Now who he is? He's an injury lawyer, mass tort environmental class action, chemical plant explosion cases. That's what he does. He also have the Esquire Entertainment. He's a TV producer, music group, and the author of Super Dads. And I want to say peace to you, brother. I appreciate you coming in.
All right, thank you.
Taking the risk on the page. I know it's controversial.
Yeah, and you know, I was a big fan before you even had me on. I've been following your page for a while now, man. I think you do a great work, and people don't understand that you get a chance to say things that a lot of us can't say. So, man, thank you so much for all that you do.
I appreciate you, bro. I appreciate 100%. What I'm gonna do, Saint African, my man, we do for self, damn right.
And that Esquire Entertainment, that was from me to you, bro.
Appreciate it.
You should have received that.
I got it. Been about money films. Tuned in for Charlotte. 40 years old. No kids, no wife. My man can't get mad at you. Ain't mad at you. All right. I'm gonna put on the introduction. We finna get this thing rolling right now. Self-made, self-made, self-owned, self-paid, self-paid. I do for self, I do for self. Motherfuck you and everybody else. I'm Mr. Palmer, self-made, self-made, self-owned, self-paid, self-paid. I do for self, I do for self. Motherfuck you and everybody else. Yes, sir. My man. So how's everything going with you today, brother?
Man, everything's going great. And again, thank you for having me on. I'm a big fan of your Instagram page, and I appreciate what you do for the public, man.
Yeah, I appreciate you as well, man. I want to give a shout out to Eric Benoit. He said he need help. We're gonna talk about that. Scott, appreciate you again. Mike Thomason, and also the other Mike. Got two mics on here for Facebook. Everybody who's on YouTube, please like and please share if you can. And everybody's on Facebook, please like and share as well. Dennis, what I want to talk to you about, first I want to talk about you being a lawyer. He's not a family attorney, but he is a lawyer. And I want you to give more information about yourself, brother.
Well, I've been practicing law going on 21 years now, licensed in Texas, Louisiana, Illinois, New York. I'm also licensed to practice in several federal courts and the United States Supreme Court, along with the Fifth Circuit, U.S. Fifth Circuit Court of Appeals. I started off at Grambling State University. I went to Southern University for law school, graduated in 2000, took the bar July 2000, scored a perfect score. And then when I went on to Tulane University Law Center, where I got an LLM in environmental and energy related law. My love has always been tort law, environmental law. I started off wanting to be a biologist. Well, I wanted to be a veterinarian. Then I kind of said, I don't know about that. After they had me dissecting rats. So I'm like, I think I'll stick to the lawyer stuff. But either way, I enjoy what I do. I practice personal injury law in Texas, mostly Texas and Louisiana. And recently, since 2017, I've been heavily involved in environmental tort litigation here in Houston, in the Houston area, class actions with a group of other attorneys that, I really appreciate. So, at this point, I'm just a little guy in the group of bigwigs. But when I say bigwigs, a lot of people look up to me, like I have a firm, but these are guys that have their private jets, and they've let me in because of my hard work and my effort. So, I appreciate that. And, I'm still learning the practice of law, because we all are. That's why they call it practice and not perfect. But if I can answer some questions, I will. But I think for the most part, you just want to talk to me about my own child support issue.
That's one of the things I want to talk to you about. Then we get to the questions later afterwards. But the thing is, like I try to tell people, no man is exempt when it comes to this system and when it involves these baby mama terrorists. Yeah. And what I want to talk to you about, I know in your book, you had a situation where you didn't even know who your father was. All them years you was raised by another man, not knowing. You found out when you was 38. Was it 38 years old?
Well, I found out when I was 10. I met my real dad when I was 38. And I had to go about, I hired a private investigator probably when I was 32 because I got so frustrated. But the situation was simple, man. It's a dual mating strategy that we know about. Alpha bucks, beta, alpha Fs, beta bucks. We get that. My mom made a decision, and she decided that she didn't like the man that, impregnated her. And so she opted for another man who, himself was an attorney. And, I think the moms, they do what's in their best interest, but they don't necessarily weigh out what the effect it will have on the sons or the daughters, the children. And so my mom told me out of frustration when I was 10 years old that, the man who I was named after and who I thought was my father wasn't. As you can imagine, that affected me tremendously. Now, at the time, I didn't understand, but it's just like dropping a pebble in a pond. You don't see the ripple effect until it hits the shore. But it caused me frustration, depression. I was angry. You know, I fought a lot. Thank God I had football coaches and my uncles and other men around me who could, you know, weigh in. And even my adopted father, he did his very best to say, no, no, you're still my son no matter what. But no matter what, it never set with me right, knowing that this man might not be my mom or might not be my father. So, you know, time marches on. I became a successful attorney, and I decided to do my own investigation. Come to find out, my father was a man who was very successful on his own right. He's married to an immigration judge. He immigrated from another country. And my uncle turns out to be, my biological uncle was a lieutenant governor of California. And so had my mom simply just gave me to my biological family, I would have been better off. But by her hooking up with my adopted father, who I didn't know was my adopted father, right? I just used adopted father, but
Right.
she would have been better off because he was an attorney. So she had the choice between this attorney guy or this immigrant guy who was about 18, as opposed to this attorney guy who's about to graduate from law school. So she made an active choice. I get it. I understand what she was doing, but I still had to deal with the consequences of that. So, you know, moving forward at 38 years old, I happened to be looking on Facebook, looking for my adopted father, and come to find out that that well-known uncle had passed away. I clicked, I entered, I, got in some people's DM boxes, and next thing you know, that following week or two, I was talking to my real father. And then I went out there for Thanksgiving of, I believe it was 2012, and that's it. I met him, and he's a wonderful man. He and I look he's a little darker than I am, but beautiful heart, wonder man, never knew I existed. See, the thing is,
he never knew.
No, my mother told him she was going to get an abortion the following day, but he went to see her, to be with her,
right,
to go with her because he didn't want her to go by herself. And she wasn't there. At that point, she had gone off and disappeared. And he assumed that she just simply had an abortion. So here I am, 38 years later, I pop up on his porch. I mean, of course, I called and we talked for a couple of weeks ahead of time. But, and it's an unfortunate situation. And yeah, I'm handling it well now. I put it past me. There's still, of course, some issues because now my mom, you can imagine how she feels. You see, she's embarrassed, but I could not, right. But I could not overlook this because see, here's the thing. I have sons now, and I would not want my sons to suffer the same thing. I didn't want them looking around as little boys wondering, is that my dad? Is that my relative? You see what I mean? I didn't want them wondering, is that my real granddad? Because I know this guy isn't. And here's the other thing. While living, with my adopted father, he took on a new wife. And so it was not the ideal situation. And if you look at myself and that man, you can kind of see that we don't look alike like that. You see what I mean? So any women always know. They can look at the size of your head and where it's shaped. And he may have shared some pillow talk because come to find out, he had always known. My mother told him, this may not be your son, even though she knew she was pregnant at the time. And so, I discuss it in my books, Rules to Live By, How to Maintain Peace of Mind and Happiness in a Conflicted World. Shameless plug. You can get it on Amazon or download it on Kindle. But it's something that a lot of us go through. A lot of people, they do it and they think, oh, the mom did the best she could. But what about the effect it has on the children? And here's another thing. My real father, it hurt him to his core to know that he had a son that he never knew existed that was out there that we missed all of that. We missed the bonding. I never got a chance to meet my now deceased grandmothers. I never got a chance to meet my uncles and my aunties. I didn't grow up with my cousins. I missed all of these things, all because of a decision that my mom made. So, I've since moved on. I understand how it works, but I've made sure to make it a point to be a father to my children in their lives as best I can.
I want to ask you a question.
Sure.
Two things. One, how old were you when you found out that adopted father wasn't your father, for one? How old were you?
I was 10 years old. My mother, the truth is, he basically told me that I had to go back to LA. And so that hurt me. And the reason I had to go back is because I was causing problems in the household with him and his new wife and their family, because it was complicated. It was other kids in the house. But bottom line is I was the only one out. I was the only one that wasn't related to anybody. And so I was the weak link. And so she was causing hell, giving him hell. And so, you know, it was either me or this kid that you brought home, this little stray dog that you brought home.
Right.
And, you know, and he had to make a choice, and he had to do what was in the best interest of his family. So when I got home, when I got back to Los Angeles, I told my mother how badly I'd been treated. And she was so upset. She said, well, that's not even your real father anyway. And I'm like,
run off our emotions.
Yeah, I'm like, whoa, you know, that, I mean, yeah, I know we having some problems right now, but I've developed an attachment to this man. He's the only man that I've known. I'm named after him. It was an embarrassment for me to even think about this, you know. So of course I didn't want to say, if you want to find your real dad, we can find. I'm like, oh, well, that was too much for me to handle. You know, I already had come from an abusive relationship in that household, and I'm not talking about sexual abuse. I'm talking about emotional. I'm talking about quasi-violence, and in fact, her brothers they were 16, I believe 14 and 18. They had really beaten me up real bad over something trivial, and no one came to my aid because, again, I was by myself. So this is the type of stuff I had to deal with. I'm being, you know, he was black, but his his wife wasn't black, and her brothers who were now living with us weren't black either. So I'm basically the only black kid in the house, and it was just a problem for me. It was quasi-racism. It was, you know, abuse. It was emotional abuse, and it's too much for a child 1,000 miles away from home to handle. But so I went home. I finally told my mom about the abuse and everything I was dealing with. She exploded. She unloaded that information on me, and it just shook me, you know. But over the years, it really just disturbed my soul, so to speak. So I was 10 years old, and I know that's only asked, but yeah, that's basically the backstory behind that. So, you know, we moved forward from that point. Now, here's the thing. I always would argue with my mother and try to get her to retract her statement and say she was lying. When I talked to my adopted father, he would say, yeah, she's lying, she's lying, she's lying. And I'm like, now I'm caught between the two people that I love the most. One of them is lying and one of them is telling the truth. And so who, at 10 years old, 11, 12, 13, who's telling the truth? I don't know, you know. And then on top of that, I'm a bit embarrassed. I'm afraid I can't tell anybody. This is embarrassing. Now here I am, this big time lawyer. At the point I was 38 years old, everybody knows me. This is Dennis Sperling, blah, 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 blah. You know, and it just weighed on me, you know. But at the point, here's when the tide turned for me. My first son was born in 2007. At that point, I knew what it was like to be a father, and I knew what it was like, the feelings that you have as a father. And I recognized at that point, there's no way that a real father would allow his son or his daughter or his child to go through what I endured in that household. And I knew at that point, yeah, despite what they're saying, that's not my real dad, you know. And that kind of, a few years later, I tried to find him through a private investigator, and then sometime after that, I was able to do it, you know, by happenstance. You want to come here, son? How you doing? You finished lifting weight? I'm sorry, man. This is my oldest son right here. This is my oldest boy right here. What's going on? Years old. Say hello, hey, Mr. Palmer. Come on back here.
How you doing?
Yeah, this is Daddy's big boy right here. This is my firstborn son. I was just talking about him. So when he was born, take your hat off, son, so they can see. When he was born, I realized what being a real father was like. And I realized the love. I loved him from the first time I saw him. He's my boy, you know, and I realized at that point, you know, what it was like. And so I knew that the gentleman that I'm named after was not my real father, because no real father would let their sons endure those sort of things. You see what I mean?
Yeah.
You agree with that? Yes. Okay. Yes. All right. You go upstairs. Y'all finish lifting weights? Yes. All right. Cool. Go upstairs.
Nice meeting you, little man. Now, let me ask you this: when you found your biological father, or even after, how was you and your mom's relationship? Did it change? Yeah, I gotta ask.
Yeah, I would say at this point it's been strained to the point that now it's just best that we don't communicate. You know, and that's unfortunate, but the Bible says this. It says, you know, honor thy mother and thy father. But it doesn't say you should hang around, you know, to do that. You see, the Bible, a couple of lines down, it also says don't provoke your children to rage. You finished? Come on down here. Let's introduce you to the world. You want to come say hi? All right, Roman's coming down too. I know you guys.
It's all good, brother.
Yeah, it's my weekend to have my boys, so I don't get.
We got time. We got time.
You guys say hi to the people. Hello. This is Roman.
How you doing?
Say hi to Mr. Palmer.
Hello, Mr. Palmer.
All right, get out of here.
Appreciate you. Now, and this what I try to tell a lot of men here. Yeah. A lot of times you have to wash your hands and move on. You got to keep them veins cold. The reason for that, because you go through a lot of suffering, pain, heartache, problems, and everything else. Is not worth it. Yeah, you honor your mother and father. Go ahead.
Yeah, brother. A lot of us feel like, we were raised by our mothers, but oftentimes we simply survived. You see what I mean? We growing up as a black man in America in the 80s and the 90s, was very difficult. To say the least. And, I understand the stress and the strain that my mother endured, but all she had to do was pick up the phone book and call my father, who lived down the street. I'm literally telling you, we lived on Vermont in South Central Los Angeles, Vermont, around anywhere from Slauson in Vermont over to Exposition in Vermont. And he lived up in Ladera Heights. That was only about maybe 2 or 3 miles away. If at any point she was ready, for help, she could have called him, you see, but she didn't.
Right.
And so I understand the embarrassment. I understand the shame that she would receive, but it would have been for the best. I could have had somebody who would come to my football games. I could have had a father who could take me to the beach, who could talk to me about myself and talk to me about what I could expect as a man. But I didn't get that. So, of course, now moving forward, our relationship is definitely strained, because of course, I would think, and I don't want to put any, words in her mouth, but I would assume maybe she's embarrassed, she's really, there's no excuse for it. You put a baby on another man,
right?
And no matter what you say, well, I told him it wasn't his, but that was after I was born, and the man developed attention, affection for this child, and this man loves this child. This man has this child's name. I mean, this child has this man's name. He had
his last name?
I do. I have my adopted father's last name.
Okay.
Yeah.
And so I'm sorry, brother. Go ahead.
Yeah. So the situation. I mean, so what? As a man, and see, I empathize with my adopted father, and I really empathize with the man. And I have to give him credit, because my mother had planned to abort me until she met him. And he was the one that said, look, don't do it. That's wrong. I'll help you take care of this child. So I can't be angry with him.
Of course.
You see what I mean? I appreciate everything that he did for me. And now at 46 years old, looking back at what he was dealing with, man, I appreciate that. Now he and I, it was always a strained relationship, because I'm like, man, you lied to me knowing I wasn't your child.
Right.
And you kept me bondage with you and my mom came together and kept me, in a kept me in a web of lies, which kept me paralyzed. You guys could have easily at 18 years old said, hey, this is your dad. Because when they say stuff like it was never the right time. Okay, what about when I graduated from high school?
Right, when you grown.
What about when I graduated from college? Okay, what about law school? Okay, what about
at least grown? I agree as a kid, at least grown.
Yeah.
Let me ask you this: Did he know your biological father, or he didn't know? He don't know him, or know how he looked, or did he know about him?
He didn't know his name, but he knew that she was pregnant by another man.
Okay, he didn't know that he lived down 3 miles away.
I mean, they knew. I mean, it was nobody's moving that far away in LA. Everybody lives in the same little circle, back then. So, yeah, they all knew. And matter of fact, come to find out, man, the crazy thing is, some of his friends actually knew my biological father, but not close circles. But and again, my uncle was a lieutenant governor of California. My biological uncle was a lieutenant governor of California. So it's not like these folks couldn't have reached out and got in contact with him at any time. His office was maintained right over there, I believe, in Compton or Gardena, somewhere on that Imperial Strip for 40 years. So it's not like they could have reached out. They didn't know how to contact.
Honestly,
they didn't have an excuse.
They didn't want to. That's all too.
They didn't want to. Not at all.
Yeah. Now, somebody asked a good question. Are you still good with your adopted dad, or you still talk to him, or how's that?
See, here's the problem, man. He and I I think what happened over the years, he began to develop a certain level of animosity, you know, because I am extremely successful at what I do, you know, and he and I occupy the same city. And he's not known as Attorney Dennis Sperling anymore, not by this younger group. My shadow is far bigger. I have television shows, I got commercials airing. I'm active. As you know, I have my own YouTube channel, Dennis Sperling.
Yes, you do.
And you know, I'm nationwide. You see, so I'm the Attorney Dennis Sperling that people think about these days, and I wear that well, and I do my best to maintain a good reputation because again, this is this man's name. You see, now the thing is, I'm still cool with many of his family members, but he and I have developed some animosity over the years. See, I always knew at some point after an adult that he wasn't my father.
Okay.
And so at some point we tried to go into business together, and he kind of sided with the people that were trying to undermine my ability to practice law. There were some partners, some other associates. They decided to go off and start their own law firm, which happens all the time in law firms. But he went with them, and he gave them the ammunition to foster that contempt. And I'm like, no real father would do that. But this is not the first time you've done this to me. And so lastly, man, here's the crazy shit, man. Excuse me for cussing. So I had a fling with a young woman. This one beautiful woman. Miss Jamaica, she was. Okay, literally. Like I went to Jamaica and met Miss Jamaica. And so she got pregnant, you know. She calls him up and he gives her legal advice on how to combat me in family court, man. And I'm like, bro,
wait a minute.
Bro,
this your adopted dad, right?
This is my adopted dad.
The one that raised you, got his last name.
Yeah, man. The one that told me I had to go home at 10, you know, back to South Central LA. So it's like, come on, man. Why would you? I say if some woman who's allegedly pregnant with my son's child calls me up and asks me for legal advice on how to fight against my son, I'm like, look, baby, I don't want to get involved in that. Look, I love you, want some money or something, cool, but I'm not going to give you ammunition to fight against my son like that. What kind of father would I be? But the fact that he would do that you know, that says, okay, he could say, well, you know, she asked. I'm like, all right, cool, man. But that kind of
ain't no excuse, man. I ain't trying to hear that.
yeah, I get it. But see, some people, it's a lot of things at play. It's some narcissism at play. It's the idea of wanting to be important at play. You see what I mean? Which trumps your there's some lines you shouldn't cross. You should never 100%. You should never do that. And so, and I didn't learn my lesson, but I'm gonna move forward. But after I found my real dad in 2012, you know, well, see, the first thing happened was we fell out because he sided with the people that were going against me. That was like 2010 or 11. Then by 2012, I found my real dad, so I forgave him. I said, man, if it wasn't for you, I'd be alive and everything. And then in 2015, he did that with my now child's mother, and I'm like, come on, man. And so I'm cool, man. I'm cool. And so I hadn't had any conversations with him since then, because it's unnecessary. At this point, I've met my new father. I mean, not my new. I've met my real father.
I know what you're saying.
Yeah. So, and I've introduced, and I think that the most important thing for me, and I know I don't want to take over. I could talk a lot. The most important thing for me was to make sure that my sons knew who their real family was. I didn't want them to grow up like me, having that hole in their heart. See, a lot of people, man, they don't weigh what this does to the children, especially the sons. You, as a father, I know what it's like for my boys to look at me and see their face, you know. And you can't just, what women think, especially black women. I would hate to say it. I hate to.
You telling the truth.
You know, but they just think they think that we have so little value. They could just take one and put him in the place of another one, you know. Anyone, like, okay, next up, you could be the new daddy. It's like, that's why you have kids who grow up and say, yeah, they got a new daddy coming to the school to pick them up every year or two, you know. And that's just unfortunate.
But people get mad at me when I say stay away from niggas. See, that's why I say the stuff that I say. People don't like it, but the truth hurts. And that's why I tell a lot of guys, a lot of your own mothers was baby mama terrorists. You know, a lot of them don't love their kids. Somebody wanted to know, which is actually a good question. have you ever thought about changing your name? Since you know,
I thought about changing my name back in 2012. I thought about it briefly, but here's the thing: I made this name. You know, you guys know Dennis Sperling. You know Uncle D. You don't know anybody else. You know, and
right.
the thing is, I've brought honor and esteem to this name. It's my identity. And I explained to my sons, we've created our own line. We're not related to them biologically. You guys know it. The truth is out there. We've created our own line, just like you have a lot of people who are Williams and then Williams and then Green and Green. Yeah, we're not related, but you know, we share the same last name. And so it is what it is. You know, the crazy thing is, man, my biological mother and my biological father, even though they're from two different countries, my mom being from the United States and Mississippi, and my biological father being from Trinidad, they have the same last name.
Are you serious?
So, yeah. So had my mom simply just given me the last name, her last name, I would have the same last name as my father, my biological father. Isn't that interesting?
That's very interesting, man.
Yeah,
Oh man, shout out to Maurice, man, my man, Black Republican, my man, one of my guys from Facebook. He support the page. Appreciate you, fam. This is really it's not surprising to me, brother, but it's surprising to a lot of individuals when I tell people that this stuff is real. Now you're a successful lawyer, you got a book, a TV producer, you dealing with environmental cases, and even you went through it with your own mother, basically your own mother. We didn't even get to the baby mama terrorist.
Oh no, we ain't got
mother. We come out your own biological mother, and that's why I tell men all the time. This is why I say the things I say. We have to keep them veins cold, and we have to call this stuff out, because you don't call this stuff out, people think this stuff don't exist.
Yeah, it's real.
Your own mama set you up for failure.
Yeah. you know, God, see, I tell my children this, and I tell myself this. The only parent I'm concerned about is my Father in heaven, because I am here because God wanted me to be here. See, my mother is simply a person I passed through. Right. My father is simply a person that helped my mother come together to create me. But I'm here because God wanted to be here. Because again, my mother said, hey, I had planned to abort you. And in fact, she told me this at a very young age. She took some birth control pills, a handful of birth control pills, in an attempt to try to cause me to be aborted, you know? And I just thought, wow, that's pretty rough, Mom. And that didn't really settle on me until I got older. Like, wow, that you had that sort of detachment from me. You tried to get rid of me like that. And I say this, you know, with you know, in all seriousness, you know, that truly affects a child. When you learn as a young boy that, man, you were very much so unwanted, that has a lot of effect. And it took me a lot to get over it. It took a lot of hard work, a lot of praying, a lot of self-diagnosis, and a lot of thought and prayer to get to where I am now, you know. And I thank God for the man who I am, because it allows me to really empathize with folks and what folks are going on. And it's why I have such a compassionate heart and a place in my heart for so many people. It's why, even though God has put me in this lofty position, I still empathize with the common man that's going through this. You know, it keeps me humble, so to speak.
Exactly. That's great. You ain't sitting back being a boule.
No, none of that snooty stuff. They don't like. I'm too hood for this, man.
I got it. Somebody asked an interesting question. Was your mom was she raised with her mother and father, or was she raised?
She was raised with her mom and her dad.
Okay.
Yeah. She had her, and so she knew what it was. But I think, you know, she knew what it was like to have, and how important it was. Whatever people say about their mom and their dad, yeah, I don't like it. But the fact that you had those yours and you denied me mine, you know, that's something that should be, you know, you should wait. You know, that's something you should think about.
Yeah, you got some baby mama terrorists that was raised by mom and dad, and it's just they went left. Not because they said their mom was bad or their dad was bad. It was just one of them black.
Or maybe they didn't value their father. A lot of our Black American sisters, they don't value what their father brought. Matter of fact, oftentimes their moms will say things to turn them against their father, and then the father doesn't have an opportunity to respond, because men don't really get into that. So the children only hear the ear of their mom. And I think that may have been what happened in my own maternal side of my family.
She didn't respect her own father. She didn't respect, you know, whoever she deal with. And that's the thing with a lot baby mama terrorists. They manipulate the child to hate the father, especially the daughter, and they manipulate the son to be weak and to be the son husband. So that's a common problem, and that's why I tell people white, black, blue, or green, no one is exempt for this. Because I hear white men say the same thing. How what you talking about? Their mom wasn't shit, and they'll say their grandmother wasn't shit.
Oh yeah, and this is not germane just to the black community. I know white guys, their situation is way worse.
Way worse. Way worse.
You know, I know Hispanic dudes so this is not something. We have a system that's set up that empowers women even when they're dead wrong to be in control of the destiny and the makeup of the family system. And so, you know, I think there's a statement. There's a Bree-Foltz law. Have you ever heard of them? The woman is in charge of the dynamics of the relationship, and when she decides she doesn't want you, she don't have to have you. And that's kind of how our family law system is set up, you know.
Yeah. Let me ask you this, because people was asking me this. Do you know anything about family law? I know you don't do it, but do you know a lot about it since by you being a lawyer? Or you?
Well, I wouldn't say a lot, but I know all the general main points. Yeah, I do. I get it. I understand, and I've litigated a couple of cases. I actually had a situation where a guy who I was representing, he's a truck driver. He was hit by another truck driver at a truck stop, and he finally got himself back together and was ready to go back to work. But because he hadn't been able to pay his child support in so long, he was in arrears. So he got served from the district attorney, who was operating in the civil courthouse, with some papers for back child support. The penalty being, if you don't pay these arrears, which were at that point, I don't know, $3,000 or $4,000, then we're going to suspend your license to drive trucks. And the thing is, if you suspend his license to drive trucks, he won't be able to make any money, so that he won't be able to work. And now you're in a situation where he's just going to go further into arrears because he can't work because you suspended his license, and he can't get his license back because he doesn't have any money to work. So it's a catch-22. So what I ended up doing, and see, here's my problem. I didn't want to get involved, but I needed this guy to go back to work, because if he didn't go back to work, then he was going to be asking me for loans until I finished with his case. And so now I'm like, how in the bejesus did I get in this? But either way, what I ended up doing was I recognized that these criminal prosecutors, remember, and I'm going to give you a little tidbit into the inner workings of the law.
Yeah, please do.
Dealing with a government and employee, they go home at 5. They don't really take this job as serious as they should. They're not the dream team. That's why O.J. Simpson won and the L.A. County District Attorney's Office lost, because they had a dream team. They were out there on their own. It's like it's okay to be a bully if there's nobody else in there that can fight against you. And that's typically what the Attorney General's office and the District Attorney's office do. But when you put a dog in a tank with some sharks, that dog doesn't stand a chance. And that's what happens when you get a dream team of attorneys, or an attorney who knows what's going on against, some employee of a government. A lot of times these district attorneys, they're students, they're kind of right out of law school. And, they'll pick on you. They'll give you a hard time. But when you put them in front of a seasoned attorney who's been practicing criminal law, they're kind of like, okay, yeah, we might have the advantage. But if you got the money and the knowledge, this might not work. You can afford to pay. You got $2 or $3 million to fight your case. They don't really want to spend the money fighting against you. That's kind of how it works. So bottom line is, you got this district attorney, and I actually went to school with the guy. And this case happened back, I believe it was 2003. I went to school. He was an arrogant jerk back then. But what he didn't know is that we're practicing in the civil district court for the parish of Orleans, not the criminal district court. So this is my house. So what I ended up doing was I filed a motion called a motion for summary judgment, and he had a time limit to answer my summary judgment. And if he didn't, then everything I said would have deemed to be true, and I could object to anything he had to say at the time of the hearing. So the day of the hearing showed up. I went there with my client and I objected to everything he said. And I said, well, I served you with this motion for summary judgment 15 days ago. You didn't answer, and I'm going to object to everything you say. And so he didn't realize what was happening, because he's a criminal defense attorney. He's a criminal prosecutor. And we're operating by quasi-civil procedure, because we're in this court of civil procedure. We're in the civil district court, not the criminal court. And so he said, hey, can I get a continuance? Nope, you can't get a continuance. My client is taking days off work. We need to get this done today. So he went to his supervising attorney, and then the supervising attorney came back and said, or he came back and said, well, we'll just pass it. And, we'll pass it. Don't worry about it. Because see, what was going to happen is I was going to get him in front of that judge, and I was going to embarrass him, and I was going to make him look really bad. And he was going to try and keep his little government job. See, I was out working on my own with this law firm. I was already a baby shark at that point. This is 3 or 4 years after getting my law license, because I'd been in the shit, so to speak. Excuse me for that language. But when you're out there and you eat what you kill, you become a different type of attorney. This guy is a government employee. We've all dealt with government employees. He had to make sure he didn't get his ass handed to him by some lawyer who graduated, after he did. He was going to look real bad. So he decided to pass it. They left my client alone. He went back to work, started hauling trucks, paid it out, and he was done with it. But yeah, so I'm very aware of the child support system and how it works and the people that run it. So I guess that was the long answer.
No, but it's good.
Yeah.
I'm glad, because I didn't know. I was like, I'll ask you, but I'm like, it's about your story. But I know you with law, so I'm sure you know the concept of.
But that's not something your average family law lawyer would do or would contemplate doing.
100%. You're right.
Yeah. I'm gonna tell you this. I literally wrote this book, and I talk about that story and many others. But it talks about many of the things that I've done.
Show it again, bro.
These are my 3-part books. This is Rules to Live By: How to Maintain Peace of Mind and Happiness in a Conflicted World, volumes 1 through 3. This gold book, all of which you can get on Amazon, it talks about many of the civil procedural things that I've done, that most lawyers won't do or can't do or haven't contemplated. It's that creativity that I came. It's that hard knock life coming up and having to depend on yourself.
Right.
You get a certain level of creativity, and if you got the balls to go forward with it, you will. And so this is how I've made myself who I am, one bad case at a time. You know what I'm saying? So that was just another bad case, but anyway, I don't want to, go off subject.
I appreciate it. Actually, Brother DeBell 5000 got a question. Is there any way for family court laws to change if men and real women push to change it? What's your thoughts on that?
Well, I think the fact that you have more women being forced to pay child support and alimony is probably the only thing that's going to make them say we need to change these laws. Because as long as it was one-sided and it was men paying women for the past, I don't know how many years, at least since a lot of years, then there was no incentive for women to even want to change anything, because that's their fallback plan. I marry a rich guy, I have some kids, I divorce them, I'm good. But right. But now that women are being forced to have to ante up, I think there is some incentive for it to change. And here's another thing: a lot of those ladies who have sons who they've seen been manhandled by the child support system, they should become advocates for family law reform. I think one thing we should do is we should begin to do away with child support altogether, because it's an incentive for women to have children, and then they reap a financial benefit from that. What we should do is push for equal time, and if there's equal time, then there's no need to pay child support. Because you got equal time, unless there's some reason why the father shouldn't have equal time with the mom, at least after the child is breastfed, weaned off of breast milk, then we should go for that. I think that's what our family law system should be.
I could tell you about that just in Illinois. It depends on the judge, man. I went and fought for that, and the judge say he didn't believe in equal parental time and all that bullshit. So it's not like a lot of fathers went for equal parenting. They didn't want primary custody. They didn't want her to have primary. They wanted equal parenting. And the ones who do have it, they either paying more money, they paying child support still, or they're not allowed to get it, and they paying full child support whatever other weekend. So
or it's off the paper. In other words, they still have them half the time, but they're still paying a monthly ransom.
You make more money. Yeah.
Right.
They full of shit, bro. That's why I say fuck child support, because it's all a money game. A $51 billion corporation crime be a racket that they made. So it's bad. You in Texas, right?
I am in Texas, yeah.
It's very bad out there in Texas.
I think the only thing we have going for us is we have caps on child support. And if you recall the Chris Brown, remember Chris Brown a few years ago? Yeah. He was in California, but his baby mama was in here in Houston. Yeah. Basically, no matter how many millions of dollars he makes every year, he's still capped out at a certain amount, which is $8,000,
I believe. He only paid.
Yeah, I think it's less than that, but he's still capped out at that amount. And so, that's why she fought to have this. Yeah, right. Because it doesn't take $40,000 a month to raise a child. That's just ridiculous. And these judges and these politicians, they need to stop being so beholden to these women's rights organizations, because it's just unfair. And it's causing for men not to want to even get married nor have children. That's why we have, at least in the Black community, 51% of Black men don't have children and aren't married.
Now, they don't talk about that, because when you say that, they call you lies. And I tell people 51% of men do not have kids.
And that's Black men, 51% of Black men.
But they say that 51% of Black men are deadbeats, paying child support. That's false.
And see, that's not true. That's not true either. Because there's only, here's the statistics are 72% of African American women have children out of wedlock. All right, 31% of Black men are married and live with their wives. Yeah. So that means that's 82% off the board. So you only have about 18%, give or take, you know how it is. Yeah. 18% of Black men who have children and aren't married. So out of that group of deadbeats, you can't say a man who's married and a man who doesn't have children is a deadbeat. That's a stretch. So it's only that 18% that has impregnated that 72%, give and take a little bit. So the question is, why is that 72% still going to that 18% to have children repeatedly? You say, I know a guy with 9 kids, man. I know 9 kids. I mean, how do you get to the point where you have none? How are you not telling all 9 of these women? I mean, who does that? I mean, I'm just pointing out, not here to judge folks. Right. I'm just saying, don't blame all of us for choices that you made and the men you chose to be with. And, it's not all of us. Don't disparage all of us for the choices.
A lot of them choose single motherism. That's why they choose to be single mothers. A lot of them, they choose to be. They rather get with Pookie and Ray that got that street money, and then when he got he number 10, your child is number 10, and then he tell you to get the fuck on, he gone, and then you tell him you got a deadbeat.
Yeah.
So it definitely is what it is. Well, I know that you say you had a current situation going on. Is it at the Jamaican? Was that the Jamaican?
Yeah, so unfortunately, man, I have 2 sons. You met them tonight, and I have another son who was conceived in 2015 and then born in 2016. Unfortunately for me, well, here's the story, and I don't want to hold up your whole night here, but
not holding up, brother.
I've been divorced. I've been divorced for 5 years, and I wanted to do the right thing and get a girlfriend. I didn't want to keep playing the field, so I met this nice lady, you know what I mean? She's beautiful and all that. You know how we are, easily led around by our nose. Yeah. And the thing was, man, we got pregnant. My intention was to marry her, but the thing is, she didn't really want to get married. So she left Texas and moved to California. Well, really what happened was she left Texas and said she had some business to deal with, something to do in California. So I think she was maybe 3 months pregnant at the time, and she went to California. Flight that I paid for, I gave her some money. She went out there. The intention was she was going to pack her stuff and come on back to Houston. Well, when she got there, maybe 2 days later, she found a reason to argue with me because she said she wanted, she wanted more money, and I said, well, I just gave you $1,000. Why do you need more money? You only been there 2 days, and so she picked a fight. Then she sent me a long text message, which was basically a Dear John letter, which ended, I think we'll be better off as co-parents. And I'm like, cool. So I recognized what was going on. Her intent was to stay in California and have the child there. Now, I know Texas is bad, right? All the states are bad. But on the scale of what's the worst, California or Texas, we'd have to give California the trophy hands down as far as child support. See, she had a plan, and what she was going to do was use my money to finance her lifestyle. See, her thing was, and I figured it out, and I wrote about it in my book, and I figured it out. So I had to set my emotions aside and my love and all that, because I'm going to tell you like this, you can't let a woman ride in on a mule and ride out with the castle.
Right. You're right, 100%.
You know, that's an old statement I heard. So what I did was I went ahead and I filed my custody documents here. I filed my paternity to establish paternity and custody here. I served in California, and so what that did is it gave Texas primacy over the issue, and so she couldn't wait around and have the baby out there, and then California have jurisdiction. And then the other thing I did was I cut her off. So she didn't have any source of income, no money coming in for me, nothing like that. But her plan was, man, to never really allow me to be a part of this child's life.
It was premeditated.
Her plan was basically, you know, at the point she was 29 years old, her plan was to have this baby and get a cash settlement every month, you know, for this child from me, and upwards of $5,000, $10,000, whatever she thought she was going to get. And so that failed. And of course, man, she screamed and hollered and all kinds of stuff. She was forced to leave California. And then she moved to Florida and said, well, look, I'm in Florida now. Why don't you just go ahead and make it a Florida case? And I'm saying, no, I'm not dismissing this Texas case. I live in Texas, and this is where you're going to get some of this Texas justice.
You know why she went in Florida, though, right?
Tell me why. You know, but tell everybody why.
In Florida, it's a woman's state, and she would get whatever she want and whatever.
Right.
That's Florida.
I was aware of that too. And see, here's the crazy thing, man. It was my adopted father who told her not to come back to Texas at the point where she was in California. And I'm like, if you had just left her alone, she would have came back to Texas, had the child, everything would have been normal. Even though I said I would even rented her a place here in Texas, she could stay, didn't have to come see me or anything. And you know, you don't want to be with me, that's fine, but don't do my child like that. And I got other sons, and this was, you know, we should have got married before we had this child, but it happened. So I'm willing to be a man and deal with it. But man, that was the case where I put myself on child support. Here's another thing you got to realize, man. After I filed, after the child was born, she's just basically absconded. I didn't know when the child was born. I got a phone call. He was born 2 days ago. I'm like, why you guys didn't even, this is from the sister, why didn't y'all invite me to the birth or anything? Well, you didn't want, I'm like, you guys didn't tell me. He didn't receive my last name. She gave him her last name.
Of course.
So now you see the cycle repeating itself.
Yeah, and you the deadbeat.
Well, she tried, but see, you can't call me a deadbeat because I filed on you. You see what I'm saying? And I said, all I'm asking for is to establish paternity and child support. Now, here's the crazy thing. She got so upset, she just left the country and went back to her home country in the Caribbean. Now, an English-speaking country fond of marijuana and reggae music. We'll leave it at that, right?
Oh,
so I had to go down, yeah, so a year after the child was born, I had to go down there, take a DNA test. I established DNA. I brought that back and I established, you know, child support. You know, now here's the thing. I know you guys are against child support, but what you got to understand is this, and I want you guys to think about this because this is another one of those caveats. Let's say I had never established child support. Let's say I never filed any papers. Now, let's say 16 years go by and this boy is now 16 years old. She can now refile in whatever state she chose, all right, and come back on me for back child support from 16 years ago from a child I've never seen. You see what I mean? So now I'm stuck paying all these thousands of dollars in whatever state she chooses for back child support for a child that I've never seen. So it's kind of like you're damned if you do, you're damned if you don't. So I bit the bullet, filed, we got established. Now, since that time, we still have a tenuous relationship. We don't really talk anymore. I've seen him maybe 3 or 4 times. Good kid, beautiful kid. I had to get his name changed in my name. And, you know, because I didn't want him growing up. Your name is not even the same last name as your brothers and sisters. Man, it's just, you know, I know what growing up like a kid is, not knowing who your dad is. And I didn't want that boy to go through that. Now, since that time, some other stuff has transpired, and we just can't have any dealings, you know, and I have to catch this boy at 16 to 17 when he becomes a man because it's just become too much, you know, and it's unfortunate to say that. But here's the main thing, Mr. Palmer, that you need to understand. If I, as a lawyer, am having to deal with this type of BS, can you imagine what the average American man, whatever his color is having to deal with? You know?
Yeah.
Think about that. It's a horrible situation.
And that's why I say no man is exempt. Somebody, is you on the birth certificate?
I now am on the birth certificate.
Now you is?
I had to see what happened when I went to establish fraternity. An order was issued, even though it was in Texas. An order issued that was directed to the, I believe, the Secretary of State in Florida, where my son was born. And they changed the child's name. They put my name on there, and bam, now I'm the official. So anytime you look in the records, he'll see that this is who my daddy is, and he can always find. He at some point he'll become a man and he'll look for me, and I'm like, son, we'll sit down and have a conversation. And if you don't want to have that conversation, that's fine. But whatever,
But it's open for you if you want to have a talk.
Yeah.
That's how I look. That's why I wash my hands and move on, because it ain't worth it. When you get to a breaking point, man, you're gonna lose everything you have, man.
Yeah,
it's worth it. And this, I say it all the time. This is why this platform is created, and this is why I tell y'all a lot to keep them veins cold. And sometimes you have to watch your hands move on. If you could fight it, fight it. But this is no man is exempt. A lawyer, out there, he's with the Sharks.
Yeah,
and even he got a story to tell y'all. This shit is real, and I'm tired of people just telling me that, oh, I'm just mad, anti, don't know what I'm talking about. This ain't real. You just you hate your mama and all that shit. And I hate black women and everything else to go along with the bullshit. But that's why I keep doing it.
Not just black women doing this to black men, is all kind of women doing this to guys. Here's another thing on my page, right? We always talk about women dating women from overseas, and I tell guys, look, bro, as soon as you bring her over here, she gets all the rights that the rest of these women get. All she has to do, she has a baby for you. She can run off or allege some sort of DV and run off and get, and she doesn't have to wait around for her papers. The Violence Against Women's Act says she automatically gets a green card, and you got to pay child support. And if you're married to her, you got to pay alimony. I know a white guy going through the same thing right now. He brought this woman over from an Asian country, and she alleged, first of all, she started saying, well, I need to send money home to my family. And then next thing, she's alleging DV. He comes home, she's moved out, taking their child with him. She's applied for immigrant a green card and filed DV charges against him, so she gets it. It's a terrible situation. Now, ironically, as much as we hate Donald Trump,
whoa, I don't hate Donald Trump.
I just see the quotes, right? What he was doing was trying to roll back some of those or stiffen some of those requirements to allow people to get their green cards just because they allege DV. And so I'm like, well, that makes sense, And so whether you like them or not, I don't know what everybody's politics is. It doesn't matter. But that was something that was necessary, because people were taking advantage of that.
Yeah, and the thing about it, Donald Trump, when he first was running office, he was going to do some changes when it came to child support, and all of a sudden that's when they started talking about the rape charge and everything. That's why I wanted him in office, because he only one that had the ball to even try to fight this shit. But Biden coming to office, I already know what he looking out for all the women and everybody else in the alphabet community.
Right.
He's set up for failure. So you know what I'm saying, I already know what's going to happen in the next 4 years now. But a lot of men gonna go Republican though behind it.
I see that trend happen, definitely.
Oh yeah, because of that bullshit. But the thing about it is, man, I want to ask you what kept you. I know you, like I say, you kept your veins cold, because the story, man. A lot of people would have been in jail. They committed suicide. They'd have been like, fuck all this, fuck my life. I give up and I can't do this. Just knowing that the person that raised me was not my father. Then I found out that my father didn't even know about me, and my own mama set me up, basically trying to set me up for failure.
Yeah.
What you do?
Well, man, I'm gonna tell you like this, man. I found God early on, and I thank God for my maternal grandmother, because my maternal grandmother I consider my mom. Because see, even when my mom had me, she still wasn't there. She said basically, I gave you away to go live with your adopted father, a man who I wasn't related to, in a whole other state, 1,000 miles away, because I wasn't really ready to be a mom yet. I'm like, okay, great, glad to know. She was not ready to do the duties that mothers normally do, and so she, gave me away to my grandmother, who I lived with when I was there in Los Angeles. And she instilled in me hard work, values, morals. She had a garden. She was a hardworking woman from Mississippi. She grew up picking cotton. And she basically worked from the sun up to the sundown her whole life. She worked so hard, man. She walked over. She had a stoop when she would walk because of bending over picking cotton all those years. She had 9 children. 7 of them survived. 2 of them passed away at birth. And that's who basically raised me. Those values, those core values: love God, love your family, good morals, do right by people, be kind to folks, be stern when you have to be. That's where I get that from, man. And I thank God for my grandmother. And many of us from my generation were raised by our grandmothers, and it worked well for me. Now, I'm not going to totally discount my mom, because as I became maybe a teenager, she came back into my life. Not that she ever left, but she was more like a coach than a mom, which is something that she really, it's really difficult for her to understand now, because now here I am, this successful lawyer, and she can't really claim me like she wants to. She can't really do me like LeBron James's mom does.
Right.
Oh, that's my baby out there. And I'm not falling over my, I'm not running over there bringing her, libations and gifts and all these.
They come with that, you owe me something. That was the reason.
It's hard to do that with me, because it's like, well, you and I we know the truth. We got it. We were friends. Let's not do this mom-son thing now. It didn't work like that, And but I don't feel sorry for myself. It is what it is. And again, like I said, I'm God's child. God wanted me to be here, and I believe it's my firm belief in God. And my belief in the sacrifices that Jesus Christ made, that's my example. And that's what keeps me going, man. And I know a lot of people, and I'm gonna tell you, I had in 2015, when that happened with the baby mama and the adopted daddy turned on me and all that, man, I had to go see a therapist, man. And I went there for 3 sessions. A little PhD, she's a little white woman, PhD, and she also was apparently she had some studies in theology. And she sat down, and after one session, man, she said, I don't know how you're so strong. I know people who've been through far less, who've done so much, to the drugs and out of contemplation, suicide and all that. He said, you're so strong. You don't even do any of that. And I have to just attribute to my belief in God. And of course, my grandmother's raising. And, I don't discredit some of the things my mom and my adopted father taught me.
No doubt.
I give them credit for what they did. When I got to college and they saw I was going to be a success, they gave me a couple $100 every month. You know what I mean? And I appreciate them for that.
Right.
You see, but that still doesn't undo
the
things that I had to deal with. And see, you can't pay your way out of this situation. You see what I mean? And God, I appreciate all of them, but I attribute my success to God and my hardships, and that's why that's why I'm willing to talk to people. And here's the thing, man, my page is designed to speak on behalf of Black men, but I believe my message speaks to all men. Matter of fact, my message speaks to all men who believe in justice and who believe that fathers are important, who believe that the traditional role that men fill is not outdated, And so, that's kind of where I'm at, man. And I stand on my own 2 feet, and I appreciate all the help that I've received from so many people in becoming a man. I've had influences from Black men, white men, Hispanic men, Asian men, and I do the same thing with my sons. I create a village of strong men around them so they can see the characteristics that they like, that they can pull from, and then they can be, and they can decide what type of men they want to be. I hope just, strong, upstanding, man. That's what I hope for my boy.
Taking the red pill, I hope.
Well, hey, man, back in the day, man, it was just called, chopping it up with your uncles and whatnot.
Yeah, exactly.
They had the men that they had to hide it because the women were so strong they couldn't really say what they want. Nephew, don't do that.
Yeah,
chill out.
Man.
So that's why I call myself Uncle D, man, because I chop it up with them like they're my nephews and tell them things that. I'm that crazy. I'm that cool uncle to come through and say, damn, I want to be like him. And I'm like, this is what you got to do. And then he just blow your mind with a little tidbit of information like, really? I didn't even know. It just changed the course, the trajectory of your life. But go ahead.
John Batista said, I found God, but I will never forget what I've been through. Inshallah.
Amen to that, John.
Hey, you ain't gonna tell me, inshallah, brother. But I want to give a shout out to Tyron Irvin, who did a donation saying for a great show. Mark Standard for Fuck Child Support Movement. I appreciate you. And also you, Dennis Sperling, you also sent a nice big donation helping out the cause so I can pay my child.
Oh, yeah, man. I put my money where my mouth is. I appreciate what you do, man. You know?
Sir. I appreciate it. The thing is, I want to ask you. Said your grandmother was from Mississippi. My mom was born in Mississippi. What part of Mississippi was she from?
She was from Tutwiler, Mississippi, outside of Clarksdale.
Okay, yeah, Clarksdale
Yeah.
is somewhere near Memphis, Tennessee, right?
It is. It's very close to Memphis, Tennessee. So it's in the northern. I believe it's called the Panhandle, up north of Mississippi.
Okay, because I never heard that part. My mom was from Shabuta, Mississippi, which is the south of the Delta. It's over there near Waynesboro, Quitman, Waynesboro, right over there, small town, all family member. She had to pick cotton, but they had land and everything. It's like 2 hours away from Jackson, Mississippi, I believe, south.
Yeah, cool.
Yeah, that's good. Mississippi. My dad was from Blythe, Arkansas, so both of my parents from the south.
Okay, cool, man, cool.
Yeah, when I hear somebody say from their parents or grandparents from Mississippi, yeah, that's the roots, man. But yeah, I want to talk about what you got going on now.
Well, you know, man, I told you, man, I'm going to. I got a hot date tonight. You know, with my lovely lady. Yeah. And so, you know, I could talk for maybe another 10 minutes, man, but I wanted to make sure I show you the respect and appreciation. I believe more of our academics and more of our professionals should interact with, with the regular people, because we don't need to spend all this time in these ivory towers. You know, I've never been comfortable in the ivory towers. I've always been a people person. And that's why oftentimes, you know, they say you the people's lawyer. You know, because I interact with folks. You know, it just so happens. Again, I had planned on practicing environmental law. I actually wanted to go work for the Environmental Protection Agency. But you know, even though I had the degree from Tulane, you know, the interview didn't go right. I was interviewed by some woman, and I guess she didn't like something I said. So I made it to the second interview, and I had all
probably a feminist anyway.
Probably so. But either way, man, that sent me to a small firm in New Orleans, and they said, look, we'll give you a job. Here's the crazy thing, man. I started off, I had a degree from Tulane Law School, a degree from Southern University Law School, a bachelor's degree. I had a perfect score on the bar examination. My first job they offered me was as a legal secretary. What? Paying $10 an hour.
Are you serious?
And I took that job, man. I took that job. Here's the thing. I was at Tulane, and I didn't have a job. And this is like, you know, I had to finish law school already. I got a degree. You know, and I got my law license. I mean, so I'm actually a licensed attorney. But I said, well, hell, if I'm gonna go back to law school, and who does that? You got a law degree, you're a lawyer. Who does that? But people don't understand. Once you have that LLM, it creates an expertise. But it was a big sacrifice to get it. So I said, well, hell, I need a job. So I applied to this company called Labor Ready, and I said, well, I'll just do labor and go to law school. I don't care, because I had 2 jobs through law school, man. I would wake up at 4 o'clock in the morning. I worked at the airport. I bring the planes in. Run the class at 8 o'clock after the planes, unpack all the people, run the class, do my graduate assistant job. And then when school was over at 5 o'clock, I'll go back to the airport, bring the planes in, and leave and get home by 9. And I would study at the airport while the planes were in the air, because I unloaded the baggage, brought the people in little small places. I think it's called U.S. Airways. But bottom line is, man, I was used to having 2 jobs, because once I got off on my own, I never wanted to depend on anybody else. I never wanted to be subjected to anybody's lies. If it was somebody I didn't like, somebody I didn't want to be around, I wanted to be able to get away from them. And I was ready to, you know, literally willing to pull myself up by my own bootstraps, you know, and I learned that from my grandma. And see, she was a humble woman. She was a hardworking woman. She was proud, but she was also, you know, she believed in making money, you know, any kind of way you could that was legal. So the thing was, man, you know, only thing was available to me when I moved to New Orleans was to apply to Labor Ready and go to school. But either way, I starved, man. You know, I starved. I didn't have any money. I didn't have any job. Yeah, I was a lawyer, but I didn't know how to practice law, because they don't teach you how to practice law in law school. So I had to find a way to get in. So what I did was, man, I finished with my Tulane degree. I got a phone call from this small law firm in New Orleans. They said, well, we were looking on this Labor Ready site, and it says here, you have all these degrees, you're a licensed attorney. The only position we have available is as a legal secretary. So I interviewed with them. I took the damn job, paying me $10 an hour. They had a little office for me in the hallway with a desk. The first thing they gave me was a Supreme Court brief going to the Louisiana Supreme Court. I know, brother, but see, had I not taken that job, had I allowed my pride to get in my way and not taking that job, they wouldn't have seen how well I could how well I did. They wouldn't have been able to see that you know, no matter what you do, whatever position is, I'm going to show you I can win. And it was that same law firm that hired me back as a young associate. They turned out they were a personal injury firm. They did these type of cases. See, black folks are not typically invited into the civil law practice. You can go do family law. You can take your ass over there and practice criminal law. But when it comes to practicing civil litigation and personal injury, we're not invited into that. We don't have firms set up for that. I got invited in because I started below the bottom floor of an attorney. But I worked my way up from that. Now I own my own law firm, licensed in 4 states, you know, but it's my grandmother's teaching, that humble black woman who picked cotton her whole life, what she instilled in me and the virtues and the values she put in me is why I'm willing to work hard to get to what I want. You see what I mean? Which is why I don't want nobody coming and taking my money in child support court because I worked too hard for it. And grandma would agree.
Do yourself. I tell people you gotta do yourself, man. Can't depend on no one. You definitely can't be running around trying to ask for handouts. That's what these baby mama tears do. They ask for handouts from the
amen to that.
Can't do that.
And you know, man, my grandmother and they were never on any child support. They never put any man on any child support. I think this is some new generation stuff. But anyway, bro, I got about another few minutes I can hang out and then I gotta ride out. Yeah.
I appreciate it, man. A gentleman want to know is you fighting for fathers' rights? They want to know, is you fighting for fathers' rights? Are you doing anything?
You know, what I do is I oftentimes will contribute to campaigns for different judges.
Right.
And, you know, in the questioning, I'll ask them, you know, how you feel about this or how you feel about that. And, you know, you can only do so much. You know, it has to actually be a groundswell of attention garnered for it, and public opinion has to change. You see?
You're right about that.
Yeah. So, you know, I do the best I can with what I have. But at this point, man, I'm just busy trying to be a good father and to provide for my own children and do the best I can. You know, that's where I'm at.
And that's why I tell guys you have to change the laws in your mind, because child support ain't going nowhere.
It's not.
It's not going nowhere. But if we change the laws in our mind, we could prevent the future and the young generation from getting into that, because we need to have more higher standards and love ourselves. A lot of the reason is we don't love ourselves. We suffer anything, and then we get in the situation, we fucked up. Before you go, I want you to do 2 things. One, talk about your books again, and talk about where they can find you, where to follow you, where to support, you know, and everything. Because this is a good dude, y'all. Coming in story, man, big time lawyer out here in Texas, man. He not tell a story, and y'all need to do the same.
Well, my books, I started writing these books in 2011, and they're called
there we go.
Rules to Live By: How to Maintain Peace of Mind and Happiness in a Conflicted World. And you can get them on Amazon, and you can download them directly off Amazon and Kindle. Just look up Dennis Sperling, which is my name, Dennis Sperling, and type in Amazon. They'll come right up. If you want a hard copy, you can email me at sperlingdennis@gmail.com. If you want a copy of the books, and I'm telling you, I give you a lot of different scenarios. There's some child support stuff in here, but it's mostly a lot of different areas which I've had to deal with in my personal life. Those of you guys who have sons who have you just met, or sons who are separated from you, if you one of those young men, and I call myself the lost son, and I actually wrote a lot of music, man. Come to find out, man, I'm related to B.B. King through my grandmother. It was her cousin. That's like my cousin. So
he from Mississippi too.
Yeah. Her name was Elmira King. He was B.B. King. They were cousins, and they all lived out in that area, you know. And so come to find out, man, you know, music is in my blood. So I end up doing 7 albums with Beans and Cornbread. They produced Slim Thug, Paul Wall. Okay. I actually have a track with Paul Wall from back in the day. It's called Grown Man Stuff. But, you know, that's not something I want to go into. But bottom line is that creativity allows me to be who I am. But the books, you can find them on Amazon. You can do the Kindle thing. They're very interesting. They're a wonderful read. You can probably read them in 2 or 3 days, but they're great for young men who have grown up, who haven't had their fathers. It basically deals with everything that we as Black American men have had to deal with in the past 40 years. I go into a little history. I go into some biblical references. You guys will like it. So far, the the appreciation for the work that took me 7 years to write has been great. So I thank everybody for that, and I thank you. I thank your audience too for having me and all these wonderful comments, man.
Give them your YouTube and Instagram.
You can find me on YouTube at Dennis Sperling Unfiltered. If you Google Dennis Sperling, you can find me on Facebook. I think my Instagram page is pretty easy. It's Dennis Sperling Esquire. I'm easy to find. I'm not that difficult to find. You guys, Dennis Sperling ESQ, Dennis D Sperling ESQ, and Dennis Sperling Unfiltered. You can find me there, folks. And so I'm not hard to find.
I heard that. Last question, brother. Want to know, what are your thoughts on Kevin Samuels?
I think I met my lady through Kevin Samuels.
Oh, did you?
Yeah. I didn't want to be in the group. I was not trying to get involved. I was like, I don't want to deal with no more women. I'm good. I'm cool. And then he said, well, just come on in, Joe. I said, I don't even want to get in there. I don't want no parts of that. I'm dealing with too much, man. And so, man, I met my lady, man. And, the thing is, man, she's a whole different kind of breed, and we've had long conversations about all sorts of things. And it's cool, man. So I appreciate Kevin. Kevin speaks the truth. He tells them how it is. Look, you're a 35-year-old baby mama.
Right.
This man who has all the options in the world does not want to deal with you. I appreciate Kevin because he's an old school kind of brother that advocates marriage and doing it the right way. And he said, well, because see, men, we always are going to have to sacrifice. We're always going to have to sacrifice. The question is, why am I sacrificing for a 42-year-old baby mama who has a bad attitude? You see what I'm saying? Let me find, if I'm going to sacrifice, if you're going to steal my money and take at least be fine and 20-something. You see what I'm saying? Let's do it like that. But my thing is, you guys also want to get prenups. You also want to get prenuptial agreements. You also want to get postnuptial agreements, especially if you already successfully made it. You don't want anybody to come in and just have an incentive to divorce you. That removes the incentive, the financial incentive out of divorce. You're gonna pay child support. Trust me. I pay more for my children outside of child support than she gets for child support. In other words, I want my boys to have the best. So I pay for different martial arts, and we travel. Hell, they fly first class. I ain't fly for the first time, till I was like 10 or 20, like 10 years old or so. They flying first class overseas. You see what I'm saying? So, I do the best I can for my sons to be a good example. But Kevin is cool, man. I love Kevin. Kevin is real. He's honest. He'll break it. He's an old school. He's like 50-something. You see what I'm saying?
55 or something like that.
Yeah. And when you get a certain age, man, you just really want to pass that knowledge out. You stop caring anymore about what people think. You see what I'm saying? Yeah. Bro. And that's why he spits that hot real to them and hurts their feelings and don't care about it. And so I can appreciate somebody like that, man. And he talks to the women like somebody should have, like their daddy should have talked to them had they had one. You see what I'm saying? So yeah, I like Kevin Samuels. He's a cool dude. And like I said, I met my lady because of him. So shout out to Kevin Samuels.
Yeah, shout out to Kevin Samuels. Hopefully I get to get in tune with him and do an interview with him as well. I talked to him in Obsidian. Actually, I posted a video on Instagram where he they actually had on World Star where he put a woman talking about she wanted a 6-figure man. And he's like, you want 6.
I know. He's like, girl, get up out. Yeah, I love that, man. He 100 with it, man. Yeah.
Okay, well, look, man, I'm not gonna hold you no longer. Definitely enjoy your day. Tell the missus I said what's up again. Tomorrow, if you ain't doing nothing, I want to talk to you about some things. We definitely need to network and get some things rolling. Because I definitely want to
hit me up, man. We gotta get your graphics and all that together. Hit me up, man. All right, Uncle D is the plug. Never forget that. All right.
I appreciate you.
All right. God bless you. Thank you all. And thank you all, audience. I appreciate you guys. Thank you so much. I've had a great time here. Look forward to doing this again sometime.
Yes, sir. I'm going to be safe out there, brother.
Yes, sir.
This was a great show. This was definitely a great show. The thing is, what I want y'all to know is, like I tell y'all, a baby mama terrorist come in all forms. It be your own mother. You could be a lawyer, a doctor, a construction worker, a truck driver. You are not exempt when it comes to the system of child support. Not at all. And that's all I'm trying to prove. And as long as people like him tell their story, others will grow and learn from it to either not be in a situation, or to know that you're not alone in this situation, or to never ever be in this situation like this. So the thing is, the baby mama tears is real. The baby mama tears is nothing new. You've been around baby mama tears a long time, all your lives, or you had family members of baby mama tears, you just didn't know it. And all I'm doing is trying to broaden your horizon. And that's why you got to keep the veins cold. That's why you have to sometimes wash your hands. That's why you have to tell your story. This shit out here is real. And there's no love when it comes to fathers. There's no love. They don't want us involved. They want us alienated. They want us to commit suicide. They want us to struggle. They want us to die young. They want us to suffer for failure. They want us to give up hope. And we cannot do that. We cannot do that. They don't give a fuck about themselves, let alone you or their kids. So I ain't gonna hold y'all no longer. I appreciate, like I said, y'all tuning in. A lot of y'all knew who he was. A lot of y'all don't, but now you know who he is. Good brother. Been in law, not family, but you know, he got books, he do production, he do environmental law cases, you know. And I plan on having a lot of other people on here as well to tell their story and also, you know, tell the laws. But like I tell y'all, we have to change the laws in our mind. Until we change the laws in our mind, have higher standards and love ourselves, this will continue to happen, you know. And it's sad, and it's sad that a lot of these stank ass whores, these baby mama terrorist whores, these Black Lives Matter whores, these feminist whores, will sit back and tell you this shit don't exist. And that's why I call it the way I say it and the way I say it, because I have nothing to lose now. That's why it's fuck child support. And like I say, child support ain't going nowhere. That's why we have to change ourselves. And until then, we all will suffer. That's why we got to come together. Well, Mr. Palmer, and this conversation is over. Fuck child support. Peace.